Okay, here we go. If you're ready, say I'm ready. All right, let's do it. We are in our who knows how many weeks we've been doing this series on kingdom stories. This has been our summer series. We started the first week of June, and we're almost done. Next week's our last week of kingdom stories. But what we've been doing all summer is we have simply just been going through the parables of Jesus and learning what we can learn from these things called parables. I don't know if you're familiar with the word parables, but a parable is basically a story that is told to make you stop and think and wrestle with its content. Parables are typically fictional. Jesus was not the first person to ever speak in parables. You can go back to the Old Testament and you can find stories and parables used then. But Jesus was awesome at it. Does that surprise you? That Jesus was awesome at something? Right? He was just really good at it. He was really good at storytelling and really good at making people think. What we've been saying all summer is parables uncover the kingdom. Everybody say kingdom. And character. Everybody say character. Okay, so parables uncover the kingdom and the character of God in a way we struggle to see on our own. I mean, you can read the letters of Paul and you can learn a lot. You can read the letters of Peter and learn a lot, but sometimes the content is hard to know what to do with. But a parable causes us to leave the situation and remember the story, because stories grab on tighter, right? Doesn't a good story just stick with you? It sticks with me, right? And so our hope is, and what Jesus' hope was, is that parables will cause you to hold on to them just a little bit longer so that you can see the kingdom, what it means to be a part of the kingdom, and what it means to see God's character. What we've been saying is that parables teach us to stay curious. They teach us to leave and go, man, what was that about? In fact, I wasn't going to bring this up, but I have to now because it's already in my head. In Hebrew culture, there's actually rabbis broke down parables in a certain way for their students, and there are 4 sections of a parable. And so what that means is the rabbi would say to their student, do you understand what I've said? Like, do you understand the words? That was like stage 1. Yes, I understand the words. 2, do you understand the surface meaning of why I taught this parable? Yes, I understand the surface meaning. 3 was, do you understand, it's the Hebrew word for treasure. Do you understand the deeper treasure of the parable? And that would cause people to have to spend days and weeks thinking about this one story over and over again to see if they could get to the treasure of the parable. And then 4 was something rabbis couldn't teach. 4 was, has the Lord revealed to you the mysteries of the parable? So these students would dig into these parables and they talk about them amongst themselves and trying to get to the deeper meaning of the parable. And so that's how Jesus taught. And today we're going to look at a parable that is one of the most famous parables of Jesus. We find it in Matthew chapter 13. And that's where we're going to hang out today. All right, here we go. Matthew 13, starting at verse 1. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Stop. We should already be curious about what's shown up in this text. That same day, what same day? Right? We shouldn't just read it and go, oh, it was some day. We should dig back in and go backwards and think to ourselves, what same day? Well, if you go back to Matthew chapter 12, what you'll find is that Jesus has tons of crowds following him. And he's trying to teach them about what it means to live, what the end may look like. And then he gets to a spot where he's in this house. And his disciples come to him and they say, hey, Jesus, your mom and your brothers are out in the back and they can't get to you because of the crowd. And Jesus says something crazy. He says, who is my mother? And who are my brothers? But those that do the will of God. Like what he's saying is, I appreciate that my biological family's here, but what I'm teaching and what we're talking about is about the kingdom. And so you all are my brothers. And what does it mean that she's my mom? Like, that doesn't mean she gets access in because we're doing something really important. Okay? So, that same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it while all the people stood on the shore. So, he goes out of the house, everybody follows him. Do you all like your personal space? Do you have like a bubble? Like a social bubble? And when people pop that bubble to get inside your personal space, you don't know what to do. Like part of you wants to throat punch them. The other part just wants to take a step back, but you know they'll keep coming, right? Jesus had personal space. Jesus was trying to communicate to a lot of people. So he gets in a boat and he goes out in the water to communicate to them so they can hear him well. And he has a little bit more space to move, okay? Let's keep going. It says, then he told them many things. Everybody say many things. Then he told them many things in parables. We've been studying those many things all summer. And then it says, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path. Everybody say path. And the birds came and ate it up. Some fell in rocky places. Say rocky places. Some fell in rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among the thorns. Everybody say thorns. Other seed fell among the thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil. Everybody say good soil. Where it produced a crop 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. That's a weird statement. Anybody got ears in this place? Right? Some work better than others, right? Some of us struggle with our hearing. Other people may have some sort of illness where their ears don't work properly. But most of us have 2 ears. If not, most of us would have one. What Jesus is saying here is not, hey, if y'all got ears, hear me. He's actually asking for something a little deeper. Believe it or not, if you can imagine this, when I was in college, I worked at a daycare. Can you see me working at a daycare? Yeah. Oh, gosh, it was special. I had 3-year-olds. Heaven help me. They struggled sometimes to listen. Imagine that. And so what I would say to them is, give me your eyeballs. And they would all go and look at me, and then I could communicate. And you could always tell the kids with severe ADHD, because you'd be like, give me your eyeballs, and they would go. They're trying really hard, but they can't. They can't lock in, right? What's interesting is even though they were looking at me, they didn't always listen, right? Can you imagine a child hearing you say things and then saying to you later, you never said that? Parents in the room. That literally happened to me last night. I'm not going to tell you which child, but he's 17. And he's currently working in the nursery. I said something to him directly, and then an hour later he looked at me and said, you never said that. And I'm like, I think I know the words that came out of my mouth. You never said that. Did I never say it, or was he just not listening? He has ears, but he wasn't listening, right? Here's the deal. What Jesus is calling us to, he's not saying if you got ears, hear me. What he's saying is if you deeply want to understand and you want to listen to what God is doing and what this parable is really about, lean in. Use your ears and wrestle with the content. Wrestle with the content. There's a few verses here where Jesus and his disciples are talking, and the disciples actually say to Jesus, why do you do this to us? Like, why do you speak in parables? Why are you talking like in riddles? And he says something that to our Western ears, as we think about what it means to teach people, he says something that makes no sense. He says to them, I teach in parables so that it's harder to understand. Isn't that crazy? And what he's really saying is I teach this way so that if you really want to grow, if you really want to find what it means to follow me, I'm not just spoon feeding you. You got to lean in. You got to lean in. And then Jesus gives us a gift in verse 18. He says this, listen then to what the parable of the sower means. He's actually going to tell us what it means. Isn't this great? Here we go. Listen to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes in and snatches away what was sown in their heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. And when trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it and leans in and wrestles with it. Who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Let's go eat lunch. Jesus gave us all the answers, right? I think there's some things here we still need to wrestle with. I believe the parable that we've read actually is two parables in one. There's two different pieces that we have to wrestle with. The first I'm calling the parable of the four soils. There's four different types of soil that we need to wrestle with. The first is the path. Now, the path is dirt. Hear me. The path is dirt, but it's not soil. You hear me? It's packed, it's hard, it's not ready to receive anything. It has no nutrients. It's literally just a dirt path with no way of seed getting into the ground. What I would say is the seed on the path is unplanted and unprotected. It's unplanted, it's just sitting on the path, and it's unprotected from the enemy. In the parable, it's the birds that swoop in. I think there are some of us in this room today that could be the path. You're here, but you don't care what's being said. None of the seed or the gospel is penetrating you at all. Maybe you're here because your spouse wants you here, or your parents want you here. But you are closed off to anything of God. And no matter how much seed there is, none of it plants in you. It's unprotected and unplanted. The next is the rocky places. What Jesus says is these people receive the seed with joy. I mean, they're excited about Jesus. They receive the seed with joy. It gets planted, but in the rocky places, there's not a lot of soil. And the problem is, if you plant something that needs to create large roots and there's not a lot of soil, it doesn't grow. See, I think there are some of us in the room who are the rocky places. Man, it feels good to come to church. It feels good to sing the songs. I don't even mind the preacher. But there's no plan for you to give your life completely to Jesus. You just want to feel good. And so it grows and the sun scorches it because the root system is not strong enough to handle the growth. And it dies. The seed in the rocky places is planted without a long-term commitment to grow. I love Jesus, but I got no plans to grow in my faith. Those are the rocky places. Next is the thorns. In the thorns, the soil is fine. The plant gets strong roots and it grows up. The problem is that the thorns wrap around the plant and choke it out. See, in the thorny places, Jesus says, these are the places where the worries of this life distract us. Where the things of this world become more important to us than the Lord. Where stress, tension, conflict, but also a desire for financial gain become thorns that grow up around the plant and choke it out. See, in the thorns, the seed is planted, but is distracted by worry and selfish ambition. It's distracted by all the problems of this world getting in the way. Honestly, if I just said, have any of you ever been thorns, I think 100% of us would raise our hand. Yeah, there's been a season in my life where I was so distracted with everything else, it became more important than the Lord. The final soil is the good soil. This good soil does everything the bad soils couldn't, okay? The seed is planted, rooted, and committed to growth. Lord, I'm yours. I'm ready. I want to grow with you till the day I die. I'm going to love you forever, for eternity. It's me and you. Let's figure it out. It's good soil. And this parable of the four soils leads us to a very simple question. And that question is this: which soil am I? Right? Which soil am I? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to answer that question for yourself. I don't need to hear it out loud. Which soil are you? Just to offer transparency, today, I'm good soil. Yesterday, I was thorns. The day before, good soil. The day before, good soil. Maybe the day before that, thorns. That's kind of where I'm at. Where are you? Which soil am I? There's a second parable that we need to wrestle with, though. And it's the parable that Jesus actually calls it. The parable of the sower. See, there's soil, and which soil are we? And then there's the sower, who seems to me, in my earthly wisdom, to be a terrible farmer. What kind of farmer says there's a path that's not soil? Here's some seed. There's rocky places without deep soil. Here's some seed. Look at those thorns choking out all those plants. I know what I'll do. Throw more seed. It's almost as if the farmer has decided it doesn't matter where the seed goes. I'm just throwing seed. And it's almost like the farmer is saying, no matter how much seed I throw, I have an infinite supply. I've got more. Do you see that? I've got more seed. Well, in this story, the farmer is obviously God. And there's a few things I want you to see about God in the parable of the sower. The first is this: God does not withhold from any type of ground. So which soil are you? Whatever your answer is, there's seed there. Because he doesn't withhold from any type of ground. There's seed nearby. God does not withhold. Why? Because he's just that generous. He is so generous, folks. He loves us so much, and he'll just continue to give and give and give because he's just that generous. He doesn't stop. And even when we're cold and distant and we're just dirt, not soil, he continues to be generous. 2, wherever you find yourself, God's seed is in abundance. I don't care what kind of soil you are, there's plenty of seed around you because the gospel has been scattered to places that may never receive it. Why is there plenty of seed around? There's plenty of seed around because he genuinely cares about you. Now, those aren't just words in a sermon. Those aren't just something you say because you're a pastor. Like, one of the things that I have come to love the most about my relationship with Jesus is that, like, he for real cares about me. And it's not because my first name's Pastor, because he for real cares about you. Not just your family, not just your marriage. He cares about you as a person, genuinely. And his seed is cast everywhere so that no matter where you look, he's right there. He's right there. 3, I want you to see that good soil can show up anywhere. Good soil can show up anywhere. Why does he cast seed on a path? Because maybe, just maybe, the path will turn into good soil. Why does he cast seed in the rocky places? Maybe, just maybe, good soil will show up there. I used to think, when I read this parable, that it was almost like Jesus was, or God was walking down a path. He's on the path, he's throwing seed. Then he sees a rocky place, he throws some more. Then he keeps going and he sees thorny places and he throws some more. Then he gets to the good soil. I don't believe that's true anymore. I think good soil can show up on the path. Hear me. I think good soil can show up on the path. I think when you reach out to find Jesus, no matter where you find yourself, you don't have to go through and maybe someday I'll be good soil. The minute you grab onto Jesus and say, yes, you are good soil. And he can plant and root faith in you, whether you're thorns, rocks, or path. Good soil can show up anywhere. It's not just a choice. I mean, it's not just like a destination. It's a choice. You can choose to be good soil. Why? Why should we care? Because simply he can change your life. Like, I know that sounds simple. Well, no duh, Pastor, you're going to say he can change my life. If you're in this room and your life has literally changed to the point that if you think about yourself without Jesus, you don't even know who you are, would you just raise your hand? I mean, if you have found Jesus and you think to yourself, man, I don't know who I'd be if I never found Jesus. Why? Because he can actually change your life to the point that it doesn't make sense without him. It's crazy. He can change your life. Every week we have car conversations, things that we want you to discuss on the way home with your children or in a car with whoever you're with or a friend later. Here are 3 questions we want to present to you today. 1, why does the type of soil matter so much when you want to see something grow? It's a very simple question. It's about dirt and soil. Why does it matter? Why does it matter that we have the right kind of soil? 2, what type of soil does my life show? Am I thorns? Am I good soil? Am I rocky places? What type of soil, if I'm being honest, am I today? And 3, am I ready to commit my life to being good soil? You can make that commitment today. You can say, Lord, today I commit to you that I'm fighting to be good soil. And on days where I'm thorns, I'll fight to be good soil. And on days where I'm a path and I just give up, I'll fight to be good soil. You can make that decision today. So as the worship team comes up to close us, just a couple thoughts that I want to make sure we understand before we go. The first is this. No matter where you find yourself, there's seed around you because he's just that good. He's just that good. No matter where you find yourself, no matter what your life looks like today, he's just that good. Reach out and grab seed and become good soil. Reach out and say yes to the gospel. and become good soil. And the second thing and the last thing I want to say to you today is that no matter where you find yourself, good soil can be cultivated. No matter where you find yourself today, y'all, today you can become good soil. You can say, Lord, I'm sorry of all the distractions of this life. I'm sorry that I let thorns choke me out. I'm committed to being good soil. Jesus, I commit to you today. And I know you're that good.